Welcome back. You're watching SA Today with me, Unati Pakesha. But let's continue here now. As speculation mounts around the possible timing of a likely indictment against former U.S. President Donald Trump, law enforcement agencies are stepping up their security plans amid calls for protests in support of the embattled Republican. Trump, who announced last year that he was running for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, took to social media at the weekend to claim that he would be arrested today, calling on his supporters to protest. The district attorney of Manhattan is weighing criminal charges against Trump in connection with hush money payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential elections. Well, my colleague Sherwin Bryce-Pease, news correspondent in New York, joins us now. Sherwin, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Well, indeed, a lot of speculation here and questions now around what would happen next if Donald Trump is indeed arrested. So let's start with the security situation and how law enforcement is planning for a possible indictment, given calls from the former president himself for his supporters to protest.
Unati, essentially, planning is law enforcement for something that is quite unprecedented in U.S. history, that a former United States president could be indicted on criminal charges, most likely here in the city of New York. But there are, of course, other investigations, including Fulton County in the state of Georgia, where they're looking at election malfeasance in terms of the pressure that Trump and his allies sought to exert on electoral officials there when they lost that state to Joe Biden. Two cases among a number of cases that the president might have to criminally or civilly answer to. What you're seeing in New York City is the New York City Police Department has been seen erecting barricades around the Manhattan Court District outside of Trump Towers, expecting some protests. But I will tell you that protests have been very minimal since that call went out from the former president on Saturday, in which he prefaced his arrest on Tuesday this week, which is today, and calling for his supporters to protest and, quote, take the nation back. We haven't seen the level of protest that perhaps he might be expecting, but certainly the posture from law enforcement has been to be on the front foot here, given what happened on January 6, 2021, following similar calls from the then President of the United States for his supporters to protest his loss in the election. We understand that the New York State Court officers, the U.S. Secret Service, the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the Manhattan DA's office has been coordinating with the NYPD about a possible indictment and certainly the security that would be required for something like that. But as matters stand, we do not have that indictment from Alvin Bragg, the District Attorney of Manhattan. We're still awaiting clarity on when that might happen, Unati.
I know. I was going to then ask you, we know that, of course, in instances like this, criminal investigations are very tightly held. So do we know if it's going to happen today or not? I mean, I see that NBC News tweet saying several sources familiar with the matter say they do not expect developments on Tuesday, which is today, in the Trump grand jury matter. The next scheduled grand jury date is Wednesday. That is the earliest we may learn more as what comes next. Interesting.
Again, speculation. The earliest might be Wednesday, the earliest might be Thursday or Friday. What Donald Trump did on Saturday was point to Tuesday, and what his lawyers immediately said after that is, we don't have information as to when this indictment might come down. And as you correctly point out, Unati, these tend to be very closely held processes. Grand jury hearings that weigh up an evidence in a criminal investigation tend to be very closely held secret private affairs. When the Justice Department investigates something, or a U.S. attorney or an attorney general in a state, they don't preface a possible indictment. They announce something when they have something to announce, and we have not seen or heard that from Alvin Bragg. What the former president just said, it's going to happen on Tuesday. But I said at the time on Saturday is that when Donald Trump says something, one has to take it with a pinch of salt, because very soon after that, his lawyers confirmed that the president actually didn't have information as to the timing of a possible indictment, or whether an indictment, Unati, might actually come down in the first place. Alvin Bragg has not indicated. We don't know what this grand jury process has concluded, so we don't know if an indictment may or may not come down, and that is going to be the purview of the District Attorney of Manhattan, Alvin Bragg.
And as you've mentioned, Alvin Bragg, let's look at what the Republicans are saying. In fact, Trump in a very long tweet saying that, Manhattan's District Attorney Alvin Bragg is targeting him for political gain and may try to argue for the dismissal of the charges on those grounds, calling this obviously a political witch hunt, etc., etc. But high-profile Republicans, including the Speaker of the House of Representatives, denouncing Manhattan's DA, Alvin Bragg, for pursuing this case and coming to Trump's aid. What else are they saying?
Yeah, look, we were never going to get away from this not becoming a political affair. As much as this is a criminal judicial process that is being prosecutorial process, it's very easy to see how this might now become political, given that President Trump in November of last year announced his candidacy, over 2 years before the 2024 presidential election, so that if these indictments come down, they then have the argument to say this is an attempt by Democrats to deny him, the Republican nomination moving forward. Kevin McCarthy said he would direct relevant committees in the House. Remember that Republicans now control the lower house here in the United States. He would direct the committees in the House to investigate any federal funding being used to subvert what he calls the U.S. democracy by interfering in elections with politically motivated prosecution. So just because Trump is running for the Republican nomination, it gives you that sort of political off-ramp in terms of accusing prosecutors here of political motivations. They sent the 3 Republican chairpersons of the Judiciary, Oversight and House Administration Committees, Unati. They sent Alvin Bragg, the DA in Manhattan, a letter requesting a testimony from him in Congress about what they call plainly appears to be a politically motivated prosecutorial decision in any potential indictment of the former president. You are reportedly about to engage in an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority, the indictment of a former president of the United States and current declared candidate for that office. We have now just heard back from a spokesperson for Alvin Bragg. They say they will not let baseless accusations deter them from applying the law. Quote, "We will not be intimidated by attempts to undermine the justice process." So they have staked out their positions. It's unclear if Alvin Bragg will at some point, honor the request from these Republican chairpersons in the House of Representatives to go and testify. But I can tell you it's quite unprecedented for a congressional committee to insert itself in a criminal investigation, and I think you're seeing that because of the sway that Donald Trump continues to hold within the Republican Party. As matters stand, almost 2 years before the election, he is still the front runner in terms of any future Republican nomination, and one can see his political muscle coming to the fore here, given the posture we are now seeing being demonstrated from the various chairpersons of Republican committees in Congress.
Sherwin Bryce-Pease, thank you so much for that update. Of course, Sherwin is talking to us about the very latest controversy surrounding the former president of the U.S., Donald Trump.